So with last year ending so abruptly, to be honest, there's a lot of apprehension starting this new school year. It was trying to pick up where we left off, but in a completely different world.
I was very nervous and kind of overwhelmed and found myself trying to figure out how I was going to do this thing.
There was a lot of unknowns. Many teachers are planners, so I think it's safe to say we were very nervous.
I'm really grateful that we live in a day and age that if we had to hit a pandemic that required everybody to isolate, that we had things like Google Meets and Zoom, and we had this virtual platform to be able to connect. But there is just no substitution for human interaction. There's no substitution for face-to-face.
You know, when you're in the throes of things, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. But then when you can't have it, you're like, I really miss this.
But once they actually showed up and there were people in the room with me, I guess it all kind of came back together.
Having our students back in class felt like coming home. I believe every educator possesses special giftings and talents and things that they're passionate about. Writing grants gives you the opportunity to implement those passions that you may not be able to due to lack of resources or funding.
So we just thought after the year that we had, why not apply for the grant? The money is out there, the kids are coming back, they're excited about the school year, so why not go for it and apply?
I watched daily as people that I went to undergrad and grad school with were posting about their jobs closing, and they were working for professional theaters and not being able to go to work and do those things anymore. And I watched a bunch of people go through a lot of pain, and so I just felt like I needed to offer hope to my students.
We knew students needed support, and we found a way to, through the grant, to be able to take what we're already doing and just exponentially grow that.
So we were outside that morning with my third period class, and at the end of the class, they sent a para to take over to send me to the office. And at first I thought that I was about to lose my job, and so I bid farewell to my class, wished them the best of luck on their future, and then was reminded that I actually just had a meeting. And so I was kind of relieved. So I get to the meeting, and Miss Grill comes over the radio and says, Dr. Johnson, there's this situation out front. Can you come and help us? And he looks at me and says, Mr. Britton, can you help me? As earnestly as possible. And I just assumed there was some disaster out front, and I needed to know details of what that disaster was to make my decision. And so I went with him, and then the way the cars were going was kind of slow, and so I thought for a second that we were just watching somebody's funeral, and I asked another assistant principal, is this somebody's procession? Should we be here in this moment? And then Mr. Massey and Ms. Rosenbaum get out of the car, and they go into the presentation. And so it really was this roller coaster, you're about to lose your job. No, actually, it's just a meeting. Oh, you have to defuse a bomb right now. And then oh, no, they're actually going to give you money today.
It was a really great accomplishment. I mean, we were all really excited and coming outside, and the kids were pumped up and they were wanting to know what it was about. And so I think sharing that moment with them really made it all worth doing it.
Once I realized what was going on, I just felt overwhelmed. I was grateful and I was humbled that the Education Foundation believed enough in my grant idea to give us this generous donation.
To have my grant selected in a year like this was just incredibly encouraging. It was just very hopeful, and so it just helped instill hope in us so we can continue to instill that hope in students.
Grants are amazing because they benefit directly into the classroom. They help teachers get resources for technology, math, science, STEM, STREAM, and just the classroom environment overall.
It's so important for them because they see, we tell them students all the time that how deeply we care for them, how hard we try to work for them. And so they get to see that, the work that we put into getting the grant into what it will do, they get to see our care in action in a different way.
It made all the extra time spent writing this grant worth it, just to see how it's going to impact the future students to come.
We just want to thank the Grant Foundation, the district, the sponsors, and the community stakeholders for providing this opportunity for us to give these amazing opportunities to our students.